Hello, beautiful artist. Welcome back to another Art Life Conversations podcast. I am your host, fellow kick-ass artist, just like you, Kelli Folsom. And I'm so excited today to be discussing a very important topic that's very relevant to right now. And what's funny about this too is like it always seems relevant at different times. So let's dig into this. The topic is, can you make money as an artist during a recession? So right now, here we are, 2022. There's a lot of talk about recession. There's a lot of world, drama going on and problems and all of that. And I know what I've noticed is a lot of people getting really reactive to this, right? This is normal. This is the normal, acceptable way to live as a human being right now, okay? However, being normal or fitting in or acceptable or average is not always the best way to be have the most success in your life. Okay, so I'll kind of dig into what I'm talking about here. People who fit in or who go with the herd, go with the crowd all the time, really struggle when it comes to being more successful. And this goes for artists too. So I'm hoping today that I'm going to help lift some of the blind spots around this topic. And so we had a really great question that came in. I'm going to read it here to you from Bethany. Thank you so much, Bethany. I'm so happy and grateful that you sent this in because I know that there is a lot of this worry and a lot of this talk going on right now. And I've heard it also from the members in my Art Life School community as well. So, all right, so she says, I've written in a question before, and you, as usual, really opened my mind and erased my previous limiting beliefs. I hope you don't mind me writing in again, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well. I'm concerned about starting and sustaining a business in our current economic state. And I'm concerned about how this recession will affect customers' budgets. Should we be offering less expensive options to our customers? How should my mindset be adjusted? What has been your experience been like selling in this recession and in the last? Thank you for taking the time to read my questions, and thank you for your knowledge. Have a wonderful rest of your day. You're so welcome. And first of all, I want to say to everybody, like, I have been in this place, okay, where I have believed these things and had these same fears, same worries. So please just know, you guys, like, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you, okay? Everything that I'm about to say really comes from what I've learned in my experience over the last 15 years of being an artist. And what I've learned, oftentimes the hard way. So I'm just always hopeful that what I'm sharing to you will be beneficial. So, here's the first problem with what I'm reading here. Number one, I hear someone who is being very reactive, okay? This is human nature. A lot of times we're just in reactive mode, not proactive mode, right? So being very reactive and being very focused on the external problems and then giving those external problems power over our lives, right? So by saying like, hey, I might want to wait to start my business, my art business, because I'm in a recession, all that's going to do is prolong you starting your art business, right? Which is really kind of exactly what you're wanting to have happen here, because all these excuses, all these reasons, they're really just showing us that we're afraid, right? Like we're blaming the economy or blaming the worry that we have about the recession or the economy on the fact that we're really scared to start our art business, right? We're really scared to embark on this path, and that's okay. Like everybody, I know I was scared, right? So that's the first thing that I see here, and the second part of this problem is really just having a blind spot, right? Having a blind spot, not being able to see that the story that you are believing and the story that you are holding on to, that you are really using it as an excuse to wait, okay? To wait, to not get started. And so I would really invite you to consider looking at that, asking like, why am I getting so focused on this recession thing? And, then using that as a way to wait longer, to get started. What is it that I'm really holding on to here with this story? What is it that I'm really afraid of? Am I afraid that I'm not capable of building an art business? Am I afraid that I'm not good enough? Am I afraid that it works for other people, but it's somehow not going to work for me? Am I afraid of losing security? Am I afraid of losing loved ones and friends and family because I'm doing this thing that maybe doesn't fit in with that part of my life, with that society? Right? Am I afraid that everybody's going to think I'm crazy, that I chose to be an artist and that I'm choosing to build my art business, right? So I would really get curious, and without any story or any judgment on it, just really getting curious and asking, like, what is this all about? Why am I getting so focused on everything that's happening out there? So here is the problem with being problem oriented, is that it's the opposite of being a creator, right? So when we are being reactive, we're really in that moment not being creators of our own life. So really the solution is to stop waiting, okay? Stop waiting and also stop reacting to everything that's happening outside of you, and choose the life that you want to create. Right? If you want to make a choice that you are going to build an art business, then you need to choose that regardless, because it feels true and authentic and right to you. One of the biggest regrets is that book about, the people who are dying, the older people who are dying, and they're sharing their top regrets. And one of their top regrets is like that they didn't choose to live a life that was true and authentic to them, and they just did what everybody else around them was doing, or what they thought everybody else in their life expected them to do, right? So you want to choose what it is that you want to create in this life, and stop waiting and start taking action towards that creation. Like, just pick. What kind of art business do you want to create? How much money do you want to make? Do you want to start an art business? And if you make that choice, then go all in on it. And you have to stop attaching to the stories, all the reasons, and their really reasons are just, excuses that are, hiding the fears that we have, right? So you have to stop attaching to those stories and believing those stories, right? So, and you also asked me about my personal experience, and it's interesting because I actually attended art college during a really big recession, which was in 2008, right? 2007, 2008, around that time period. And it was all consuming. It was always on the news. Everybody was always talking about it all the time. And it was real. Like, people were losing their jobs, all this kind of stuff. And it was, it was bad at the time. And now I will say, it wasn't like we were in the 1930s Great Depression at that point, but the fear about all of this and the reality of it too at the time, because people were, getting laid off, losing their jobs, So the reality also was saying, oh, this is real, be afraid of this. And, it's interesting because even during that time, and then I would hear artists lamenting the loss of like the 80s and the 90s and how great they were and how now they can't sell anything, And so it's always fascinating to me that with so many artists that I've talked to, like how many different beliefs there are out there about this. And like one person's story is that the 80s were horrible, but the 90s were great, and vice versa. So in my experience, I've never had any issues selling enough work, to supply my needs, even in downturns, even in hard times, and I've never really had to do anything special or adjust anything necessarily in order to compensate for that, recession that we were so called in at that point in time. And I think part of that is I was always just focused on creating the life that I wanted to create. I was always focused on the action that I could take. What can I do next? What can I do next? And I will say, whenever COVID hit in 2020, a lot of artists did have a very hard time, especially those who had not embraced the online market. And fortunately for me, I had started building in the online market in 2018. And so I was really set up to be able to sustain that difficulty in 2020. And even then, I did, kind of make some adjustments and adapt. I had a lot of in-person stuff that I had scheduled. And so, of course, there are times when the time calls for it that you can adapt and make those adjustments, But I was never afraid. I was never afraid that it wasn't going to work out. I didn't have any story that I was attached to that it wasn't going to work out for me. I was always just really focused on, what I'm here to create, who I'm here to serve, how can I serve them better? How can I connect with more people? How can I get more eyes on my artwork? How can I, push my art business to the next level, no matter what is going on out there, no matter what's happening on the news, which, oh my goodness, if you listen to the news every day, my goodness, you think the entire world is going to, come to an end just any moment. And it might, I don't know. It's that's not my business. That's God's business, the universe's business. It's not my business, if that happens, still today in this moment, I will proactively create the life that I want to create, that I choose to create. I will create the business that I want to create, right? And take steps towards that. It's really fascinating. Recently I was listening again to Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, and really him sharing his stories. He was literally in a situation where he could not create the life that he wanted in terms of actively doing it and seeing the results from it in that moment. In fact, he didn't even know, was he going to be dead? Would he even get a chance to get out, of the Nazi prison camps? And what's beautiful about his story is that he shares that, in his mind, even being in this prison camp and wasting away from starvation and hunger and watching all of these beautiful humans around him dying, and giving up and dying as well. He said the whole time he was thinking about whenever he would get out. When he would get out, he was planning the book he was going to write. He was planning on how he was going to help all of these people who just went through this same situation with him, So it's amazing because he was creating the life he wanted to create, even in an external circumstance like that, And I think it's just such a powerful example, to not just be focused even on the reality, even when you go, but yeah, Kelly, that's reality. That's what's happening. That was certainly reality for him, and I'm sure he was filled with fear and worry as well every single day. He didn't know that his wife had been killed, for example, and yet every single day he would connect with his wife, and talk to his wife and connect to the meaning of that and imagine being with her, after he got out of there. So that was, his day-to-day reality, and yet still he chose to create a life of meaning for himself and to prepare himself for the future when he would have that external freedom that he needed in order to do that, right? So I will leave all of you with that final amazing story from just one of the most incredible human beings that has ever walked the planet, Viktor Frankl, as hopefully inspiration to all of you as it is to me every single day. Whenever I get tempted to look at external circumstances and attach to that story as a reason and an excuse to give up or to stop trying or to wait, which is really just another form of giving up. Waiting is just another form of, failing by default, right? Failing by default. If you don't try, you don't have to fail. Right. So I will leave all of you with that today. I hope this has been helpful to everybody. And thank you, Bethany, for writing that beautiful question in. Love you. Thank you so much for being a valued listener on this podcast. And make sure, everybody, that you hop over to Art Life with Kelli, KELLI.com. You can check out all the resources that I have for you there. We also have them listed in the description, the show notes below for you as well. For those of you who are looking to build a successful art business, I will have some amazing new offerings and programs coming up for that, starting with an incredible Art Stars Business Breakthrough retreat here in Denver, where I live. So if you're looking to be the star in your own art life, then I highly encourage you to check that out and consider joining us for that and find out if it's the right fit for you. All right, until next time, I'm wishing you all happy creating. Thank you so much for being here and for participating in these conversations. Bye.